Bonjour! Welcome to another episode of Cuisine Michelle. I am Michelle. So today I'm going to be making a recipe that I have made many times now, and it's been loved by basically everybody that I've ever made it for. This is lasagna soup. And to start it, you want to cook some mafaldine noodles. So that's these, which look like, they're kind of like little lasagna noodles. And you could use regular lasagna pieces if you needed to, if you cannot find this type of noodle at any shop that is near you. Anyway, you're going to cook this according to the package directions. And then as you're draining the water, make sure that you keep at least 1 cup of that cooking water that you used separated off so that you can use it later in the recipe. After that, while that is getting ready to cook, we're going to go over here to the stove, and in the pot already I have 5 links. This is just a little over a pound of Italian sausage. I actually had some left over in the freezer, so I'm using 2 links that are hot Italian sausage and then 3 that are mild. And you could also use half. This comes out to about a pound. You could use about half a pound of ground beef instead if you want, and half Italian sausage. I've done it all different ways, and it comes out great in whichever way we go. So we're going to turn our heat on to about medium-high, and then we're going to be breaking this up into little crumbles as we do this, as we cook it. Okay, so now that I've gotten this to be basically browned here, or cooked through anyway, I'm going to go ahead and scoop it out with a slotted spoon. And the reason we do that is we want to leave behind the rendered fat. We're going to use that rendered fat, and I'm going to turn back the heat just a bit. We're going to use that rendered fat for the next step. Okay, so the next step, we're going to put in this is a large yellow onion that I have chopped up in my food processor. And if there's a little bit of the sausage left behind, that is really not a big deal. As you can see, I left some in there. That is okay, although it is popping a little bit. So again, I have to cut my heat back. This burner is very, very powerful. So you want your heat to be somewhere around like medium. So we're going to cook that onion until it begins to soften, which should just take a minute or so here. Okay, the next thing that we are going to add in is 2 teaspoons of bottled minced garlic. If you want to use fresh, that would be about 4 cloves of fresh garlic. I'm just opting for what is bottled because that's easier, and that's what I've always used in this recipe. So you want to stir that just until it begins to be fragrant, just a few seconds. You don't need it to be really, really long. You don't want to burn it by any means. Once we have that stirred in, and it is definitely fragrant, we're going to go ahead and return our meat back to the pan. Give that a stir to get that combined. And then we're going to be adding in several ingredients now. The first of which is going to be 2 cans of chicken broth. This is the lower sodium kind of chicken broth, and this is a 14.5 ounce can. So we need 2 of these. If you want to measure it out, now the cans are a little less than 4 cups, but it does say 4 cups in the recipe. You can make that up a little bit with the cooking water. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit, but you could add some of your pasta cooking water to make up the difference if you want to. I'm just going with this. It's just fine. And then next ingredient we're going to add is 1 large can, which is 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. This one has the basil already included. You don't have to have that kind. If you want to use the ones that have herbs in them already, you'll just need to reduce the other herbs that we're going to add in. So I will be making note of that here in just a moment. Next, we're going to be adding in 2.5 tablespoons of tomato paste. Yes, it's upside down, but it's okay. Hopefully we all know what tomato paste does by now. And I don't measure this that particular. I just try to get it pretty close. And I just give it a nice stir after each ingredient, especially the tomato paste. I like to get that really well stirred in. So next is going to come our herbs, and for the herbs, the first one is the basil. And since I am using the crushed tomatoes that already have basil, I'm only going to be putting in 3/4 teaspoon of the dried basil. If you are using tomatoes that don't have it, you'll need another teaspoon. So just depends on which kind of tomatoes you're using for that. Next will be 3/4 teaspoon of dried oregano. After that, we have 1/2 teaspoon of dried rosemary. And I'm going to crush that up in my fingers after I measure it. Make sure I release all that wonderful rosemary goodness. 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme. 1.5 tablespoons of Italian parsley that has been chopped up. And then you just put in some salt and pepper to your own taste. So I don't have a measured amount for this. This is just what your taste is. And you can be fairly generous because this is going to make a good amount of this soup. And then an ingredient that might surprise you a little bit is going to be that we need 1 teaspoon of sugar. And the reason we put that in there is to cut the acidity of the tomatoes. If you don't add that, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but your sauce might have a little bit of a sharp taste to it. So we're going to get all of that put together there, stir it in, make sure it's stirred really, really well. Right, once you have that all stirred together, you're going to want to increase your heat a little bit so that you can bring it up to a boil. It doesn't have to be super high heat. You don't want to scorch it or anything. It will come to a boil. I could already hear mine starting to want to simmer a little bit. And once you reach that boil, you're going to want to cover your pan and turn your heat down to medium-low and let that simmer for 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so I have gone 25 minutes on this. It's looking really nice and smelling fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be putting that pasta that we cooked in there. These are the noodles. They're cooked and ready to be in our soup here. Oops. Didn't mean for that to happen. And then I only add 1/2 cup of the cooked pasta water to start with. It is really up to you on how you feel about this. It is just there to help thicken a little bit as you can let this cook for just a minute. So kind of let that pasta water get mixed in there. And if you want a thinner soup, you could put in a little bit extra. I mean, it does help it kind of thicken but thin at the same time. Might sound a little silly, but anyway, it's up to you. You make it a couple of times and then you can decide exactly what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and cut the heat now. And then we are going to add our final ingredients, the first of which is, this time I'm using a 6-cheese Italian blend, so you can see it's got quite a few different cheeses in it. You can also just use regular mozzarella. This is 5 ounces of that cheese. If you want to blend your own, shred your own, that is fine. Just throw that in. And then also you want to add in 1/2 cup of shredded up Parmesan. And because we certainly don't have enough cheese already, we're going to be putting in some ricotta cheese. We were going to put in 8 ounces of this, so I'm going to put in about half. Get a spatula here to put. I don't measure it exactly. I just try to. This is half of this tub, so I'm just going to put in approximately that much. If you get a little more, a little less, it's just really your own taste. If you want to put the whole thing in, that's up to you. Put that much in, and we're going to get that all stirred together. And once we have that all stirred together, it's going to be time for our final plating. So I will see you at final plating. Right, here we are at final plating. So you can see there's my soup. It's looking very nice. It's steaming and everything. I already know this is fabulous, but I'm going to go ahead and taste it here on camera for you. Oh, it's so good. It's just so wonderful. I really hope that you will try this recipe. And I hope you'll try some of my other recipes as well. Please, if you haven't already, go and visit my blog and you can see these recipes. So I have the link here on the description for this particular recipe, but also you could give me a like if you like this recipe. You could also please subscribe. I'm really trying hard to reach my 1,000, so please help me out and give a subscribe there. If you super really like it, you could give me a thanks on those 3 dots that you see there next to all those other options. There is an option to give me a super thanks. I would really love that. That would be amazing. I've also put out memberships available now, so you can put join and join me, and I'm going to be starting that very soon with the details on what kinds of things I'm going to offer with my memberships. So be looking forward to that. And of course, leave me a comment. I really love having your comments. I try to respond to them as soon as I can. Let me know, what do you think about lasagna soup? If you've ever heard of it before, what are your thoughts about the idea of a lasagna soup? And then we will see you next time. Au revoir.